What's going on, everyone? Dwayne Pedals here. Welcome to the channel. We're going to be switching gears a little bit, and I'm going to be sharing with you over the next few videos a series of interviews where I'm going to be connecting with cyclists, artists, outdoor enthusiasts, people who are community builders, who are really pushing the envelope in the passions that they truly love. My aim is for them to take you all on a journey to potentially inspire you to get outside and maybe go on one trip of your own one day and just get out there and adventure and explore the world. And I urge you to stay and watch from start to finish. We're going to be kicking it off with Todd Nisbet, who is also known as Concrete Trails. If you don't know, now you do, and you will once you watch this video. Todd is an incredible soul who's really passionate about bikepacking, and we had a great conversation about it. So if you all know anyone who you'd like to highlight or feel that should be highlighted, I would love for you all to drop them in the comments below so that I could connect with them, because I'd love to do that. I'm gonna leave Todd's info for you all to follow and contact him and just see the cool things that he's doing in the description below this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, my friend, Todd Nisbet, also known as Concrete Trails. Todd is an incredible soul. He has been pushing the envelope in all aspects of bikepacking and community. But not only that, he is the purveyor of street style and fashion, pairs it very well with bikepacking, unlike anyone I've ever seen before. So welcome, brother, and it's an honor to have you, man.
Thank you, Dwayne. It's good to be here, and yeah, I'm grateful that to be a part of this journey for yourself, which is just getting into some of the interviews and things like that. I followed a lot of your video work on the YouTube channel from like the Long Island. I think there was Long Island content. There's probably Hudson Valley stuff from New York, I think. Weren't you doing something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
sure,
I think like
sure.
over the past few years, I followed your video work. So I feel honored,
that.
to be a part of the first one of the first interviews. Like
right on, man. I appreciate that, man. I've been wanting to connect for a long time, man. So I really appreciate you being on. And yeah, man, I think I know I scratched the surface, man, but I'd like to start off with you sharing more about yourself. And how about like you share more about your story, like tell everyone about like how you got into bikepacking. I know the cool kids are calling it like alt cycling these days, but how about you share more about that?
That's an interesting topic right there. It's like alt cycling, alternative cycling, and then or you look at like all terrain cycling, and then when you get into bikepacking, you realize that like bikepacking is pretty much like you think mountain bikes, and then pretty much having camping gear on the bicycle. And then really that stems from, bike touring, and then bike touring could also be called adventure cycling when you're going on and off road. So there's a lot of different levels, I would say.
For sure.
For sure. And I think bike camping is one of the most direct terms where like the general public knows, like when you say bike camping, they're like, bike camping. Okay. You're taking the bike somewhere camping, but then bike packing is like the equivalent of, backpacking, but with the bicycle, and the bags are on the bicycle. And I would say there's probably no feeling like that in the world, which everybody could relate to, that bike packs, which is when you're that lightweight on your body, and then your tent and sleeping bag and cooking gear and everything else is on the bicycle, and you're actually just first on the bike, just ready to depart on a trip. You're just like free, you feel like free as a bird at that point. So it's like you're pretty much ready to roll. And then, the start for me, which a lot of people, I know that you wanted to get into that. I wasn't even back on a bicycle in New York City until 2015, summer of 2015, as a bicycle commuter. And I was having difficulty even biking 7 miles at first from my office that I was working at, my friend's office showroom on 21st Street, and then biking up to 147th Street. And that was even like a struggle for me. It had been that many years. Like I was probably about 35, 36 years old or so. Yeah. And I mean, it was funny. I got more into that commute and just a healthier lifestyle in general. My background, I think as you mentioned, is in street fashion. So I've pretty much over the years in my early 20s professionally, I started, working at a brand and was doing everything from product photography back then. And we're talking early 2000s, like 2001, like an e-commerce website was new to this brand, that's how long ago this was. So, at that time I was just, I soaked up a lot of information just like a sponge. I was just that person that like wanted to learn at anything from anyone. So I spent time hanging out with like the clothing design team, as much as I spent with like the photo team and wardrobe stylists. And I just took in as much knowledge and information as I could at the time in my early 20s. I was definitely like a kid, like in a candy store when it came to like the fashion business and when it came to the entertainment business. And, bike packing seems like the furthest thing from that. And I believe that I kind of took that leap for myself. Like I said, as a commuter cyclist, just wanting to have a healthier lifestyle. When I got into commuting, then I started to think more about what clothing I was wearing on the bike, and I needed functional layers. So you just start thinking base layer, mid layer, and then, outer shell pants and jacket and things. So I already was such a kind of a techie, I was already like a gear nerd myself. Like I already knew tons of clothing brands, from street fashion to some, technical brands. The outdoor brands that are most prominent, I'd say, in the Northeast, and especially in New York City, the North Face is like the first one you're going to think of.
Yeah.
Patagonia, and you're going to think of Arc'teryx. And then you get into like more like your, Mountain Hardwear and Outdoor Research. And there's a lot of stuff there. So already from a street fashion perspective, I already had some knowledge. Canada Goose would be another one, and I already had a lot of brand knowledge of that space. So now combining it on the bicycle, even for the commute, was a lot of fun. I liked biking awesome. In the snow. Like to me, it was like a challenge. If I had to do 7 miles from the office and the snowstorm hit at 4:00 and at 6 or 7, I was going to bike uptown, taking First Avenue, like all the way up, taking First Avenue all the way up through Manhattan. That was a lot of fun for me back then. Like to me, that was my mini adventure back then. And what basically happened was, as I got a little better on the bicycle and got more comfortable on the bicycle, I thought to myself, it would be cool to go bike camping, like to actually go on an adventure. And the more I looked into bike camping, I came across bikepacking.com. And that was probably the first website where I said, whoa, bikepacking. I had never heard of the term before, ever. And there was just this entire world and subculture there to dive into. And then brands in the space as far as bike bag companies. And when you talk about the gear on the bike, so it was like I was definitely like a kid in a candy store again, because I was like, not only do I have the wardrobe head to foot for myself to think about what I'm going to wear while I'm on this bike camping trip, but now I need to think about what am I putting on the bicycle? What type of bags am I putting on the bicycle? What color are they? What's going to be the theme, of this bike? And I started really primitive. I had a Cannondale Bad Boy that was all black.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And then I had some camouflage bags on there from Blackburn originally, I think. And I had a rack on the back. And I had 2 big Thule pannier bags, and I had them stuffed out with more camping gear than you could ever imagine. More than I would ever need,
Yeah.
And my cycling back then was a lot like train, taking the train to places. So I was taking the train with my bike, and there was less biking involved. It wasn't until 2018 that I started to even do. I think in 2018, but it had happened in 2018. I finally took my first 100-mile bike packing trip, and I was kind of cheating because I was going to meet up at like a friend's camp out at the time. So I knew I was going somewhere where there's food, water, showers, and like a hot fire and everything else, But getting there, I definitely was way underprepared as far as what that ride was taking me, like in the dark, in the mountains and stuff, up in the Catskills. It was probably like, September 2018 or something that I did that. And then from that point, I kind of became addicted to doing those kind of rides that were like a little more meditative. where it was like you were solo by yourself and in the dark, on some roads. It would just kind of happen by default, you know? So, I think you even had a question. I think you might even had a question of like, how do you overcome the fear when you're bike packing? And I think you actually get accustomed to being alone in a woods and forest environment. Um, I think you become accustomed to it, and for me, it actually gets very. It really plugged me back in a lot to spirituality because for me, it became something where it's like you might be scared and you might be asking yourself, "What am I doing?" And there's a ton of things that could go wrong, but you have faith in something, and you just keep moving forward. And before you know it, you're not really scared anymore. It's like you're actually
Yeah,
just doing something that's coming. You know that this is exactly what you came for was an adventure, and you came to be a little bit shook up and a little bit on edge. If you were in your comfort zone the entire time, it just wouldn't be cool. At that point, you might as well just go to the movies or something like that, or stay home. You
yeah,
know.
for
But if you
sure, for
really want to
sure.
push yourself and challenge yourself, I'm not saying to overly go out there and do something that's like dangerous, you know, but
Mhm,
just to actually like, you know, it happens naturally, I think, with bike packing. And we spoke about that a little earlier, which was
mhm,
if you forget something or when something does go wrong, is really when it becomes an adventure on a bike packing trip.
for sure, for
Like
sure.
the unpredictable is what makes it fun a lot of times. As long as the unpredictable is something simple. Like, okay, we forgot the fuel canister for the stove. So now we're going to have to actually heat up our water over the fire pit and actually make a real fire. You know, not necessarily a medical emergency, you know, or something like that. But even something as
Mhm.
simple as like, you know, hey, you forgot your coffee. So now when you stop into the gas station store, now you need to buy, you know, ask them to just buy some grounds for the next morning for your coffee or something like that. And it can be that simple. So I think
Nice. Yeah,
that's when the adventure gets fun, you know, when little unpredictable things happen like that.
I love
You
that,
know,
man. I love
something's
that.
fun.
Yeah, it's amazing how like this your journey is so many like things interconnected. You know, I feel like New York City. You mentioned like riding from what was this 21st Street all the way up to Harlem and all that. I feel like those things like you know the different conditions, you know, fear, like those things are all interconnected and like kind of teach us like how to be on our feet, you know, and I think that's really cool that you shared that. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
For sure, man.
Yeah, so that's what my story really just started out in New York City, and it really came through. I will say, like you know, I started Concrete Trails as an Instagram handle, and it was a way to meet people and engage with that community of people that were just in
Mhm,
bike packing. And I didn't have, you know, I wanted to turn over a new leaf for myself,
mhm.
you know, in my 30s, and I said, you know, I want to do something that's healthier and get a healthier lifestyle, and that's really what it was. And I noticed that when you commit to doing a bike packing trip, and it could be as something as simple as one of the first campsites. It is the first campsite I ever went to was Floyd Bennett in Brooklyn. So from my doorstep
Okay.
is about 27 miles to bike to Floyd Bennett Field from Harlem to you know Flatbush Ave, Brooklyn down there, and camp at Floyd Bennett back then in 2016. It was just like it was super accessible, and you were kind of forced into this workout. It was going to be physical exercise. You were going to be working the whole time. You had to build the campfire. You had to set up camp. You had to keep yourself warm, you know, or keep yourself cool if it was the hot summertime, you know. And pretty much it was work, and you're locked in, and it's exciting. It's not like just going to the gym and saying this is we're going to burn this many calories today, and we're going to like focus on this many reps of this and that, or even just being on a treadmill or something like that. It's like, no, we're actually going to take in the sights and sounds of the city for the whole 27 miles on the way there. There's going to be some unpredictable things that happens, you know, maybe a car or two that cut us off, and maybe we'll see a sunrise or a sunset, and you know, it's different routes you could take too, you know,
Yeah.
and then you get out there in this little patch of woods, and you know, I think to me it was like it was just like for me it was groundbreaking, and it was a lot of fun to reconnect with nature in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I was following you for a long time, man, and like, you know, before we even connected back in 2020, or 2019 even. But like, I remember you doing campouts, and you know what's funny? I thought you were in New York City Central Park at the time, and but that was Floyd Bennett Park. I had no
Oh
idea
yeah, yeah. Floyd
that
Bennett
Floyd
Field.
Bennett Park had a campground.
Yeah,
So that's cool.
yeah. I love that. I love that campground. I've had, I've had friends come out there, meet me out there, even via car. Like
Nice,
they would just even
nice.
like take like a Lyft or an Uber and like meet me out there like for the night, or even just to like hang for a little bit by the campfire and then be like back in the city with the car. Like the same
Nice.
night. And things like that. That's how accessible it is. But it's a
For
good little
sure.
getaway from New York. I hope that they actually reopen that in the future.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Been
I'd
closed.
love
It's
to
been
check it out.
closed since 2020. But I
Got
hope
it.
that they reopen that sometime soon.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Look, you get around, man. I see you like doing Mid South gravel. I see you doing the, Nutmeg Nor'easter. What inspires you to keep paddling and bike packing and going on adventures and everything like that?
The more comfortable I've gotten on a bicycle, whether it's been a gravel ride or whether it's even been like a bicycle commute in New York City, the more comfortable I get, even on a group ride. Some of those social cycling rides in New York City, I was
Yeah.
attending a lot of different social rides, and some of those are a lot of fun, but they could be intimidating too when you got hundreds of people out there and some of the summertime and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bottom line, my point is this: the more cycling I've done, the more comfortable I become, and the more fun it gets
Yeah.
because you become more comfortable.
For sure.
I mean, my first Mid South gravel was like you're there at the starting line and there's like 2,000 to 3,000 people. And I'm like, I know some people for sure. I saw some people like, and I knew I had friends out there and I'd see a lot of people. But at the same time, it's intimidating when you're
Hmm.
like, when there's that, many people lined up and there's just this sea of cyclists. And, it's just the more comfortable I get, the more fun I have. And I've said in some interviews before, I've said in some written interviews before, people, I said that the best version of me is on a bicycle, and that cycling has made me less judgmental of people around me and a lot less judgmental of myself, and just able to let go and like have fun with something and challenge myself. And if I make a mistake, I can laugh about it because other people are out there making mistakes too. So it's just like it's made me just feel I'm the best version of myself on a bicycle.
I
That's
love that, man.
basically it, hands down. That's it.
Yeah.
And I've
I
been
love
saying
that,
that for
man.
a few years now. I've been saying that, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it so special for me. And then when
Nice.
people and then there's still some times where people are like, well, what kind of cycling do you do? And it's like bike packing. And
Yeah.
they're like, what is bike packing? There's still people out there that just don't understand like bike packing and bike camping.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, within the cycling communities in New York City, there's been way more knowledge of bike packing.
And I'm glad.
There's
Yeah.
been way more. There's been way more. There's a lot of people that want to get into it, and there's a lot of people even this past summer that were going on a lot of trips to Long Island and a lot of trips up to Harriman State Park. I would just
Awesome.
see little groups of people just all of a sudden on Instagram. I would just be like, boom, wow, they're out there.
I
A
love it.
group of 6 to 8 people. And it was just really inspiring to see that.
I love
So
it. I love it. Yeah, man. They say like when you make something fun, you take care of motivation, and that there alone can inspire one to get out there and seek an adventure, So
mm.
that's cool. Thank you for sharing that too, man. That was a nice piece.
Oh, no problem.
I
You're
f-
welcome. Thanks for having
yeah,
me
for
here to
sure,
talk
bro.
about it.
Yeah, 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 man. Absolutely, dude. I feel like everyone's got like a bucket list trip that they want to go to or embark on. So like, what's one place that you want to travel to bike and why?
Hmm. This is a good question. I saw it written in the email and everything, and I thought about it for a minute, and I really said, I kind of just want to go bike camping back at Floyd Bennett Field. But no,
Nice.
I was like, part of me was like, could they just reopen Floyd Bennett Field so I could head in there on a Friday night and just like
For
light a
sure.
campfire and just chill, you know, and just like be
100%.
like a quick little city getaway or something like that, and I could invite
Mm-hmm.
some people out and it was like easily accessible. But no, I think I really want to go to the Pacific Northwest,
Mm,
and
mm.
that's still USA. So like between Seattle or even Portland, I'd love to get out there because I feel like that's really like one of the birthplaces of where adventure cycling and bike packing, came from. I feel like there's a lot of influence from the Pacific Northwest
Yeah.
in the culture of bike packing. I feel like I'd like to get out there. There's someone I follow that's in the Scottish Highlands in
Mm.
Scotland. That looks incredibly beautiful too. That looks like that would be like a dream week just to be out there on a trip. And it would, and I know that there's some pretty snowy times out there, but I bike camped in the snow. I bike packed in the snow before in the Northeast. I've done it
I've
in
seen you.
Brooklyn. I've done it in Brooklyn at Floyd Bennett.
Yeah.
I've done it. And then recently in DC, I took a trip to DC, took the train, took the Amtrak to DC, and then was up on the CNO, which, because it was snowy and icy, it made it a lot more challenging every night to get up there to the campsite,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's,
Nice, man.
it's, like I was saying, like the more you do, the more comfortable you become.
For
So
sure. Yeah.
I bike packed at everything from, high 90s degrees heat in Texas, and just been literally laying there, like, laying there in my underwear, just on the floor of the tent, you know what I mean? Just like total, no rain fly, no anything. You're just hoping that there's a breeze that comes by because it's so hot,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like you wait for the morning to come because the coolest time in the tent is in the morning from, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. or something like that. And that's when you're going to get the best sleep. And then there's other times where I've been like, I've had a wool blanket underneath. I've had a wool blanket as a liner basically on my tent, and then I've had me and my sleeping bag on top of that, and just like super layered up base layers and wool socks and everything inside the sleeping bag. And I probably camped the coldest I ever bike camped in these days was probably maybe like 26 degrees or something
Oh
like that.
wow. Woo!
Really nothing, and there's nothing compared to when you really look at the community online and you connect with these cyclists who are fat biking.
Oh yeah, I
No,
see it.
and they're in way colder conditions.
Yeah.
And I even
For
have a
sure.
friend, Stephanie, that's up in Vermont, that's like been camping all winter, and it's like 7 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh man.
You
That's
know,
the
and,
limit
and
to my love
even,
right there, man.
and it's stuff like that where you're like, wow, like this is somebody that's like training for ultra endurance rides and things
Yeah.
like that. So yeah.
Right on,
But
man.
yeah,
It's so
that would be it. I really would say that. Like, it's funny that when you asked me that question, first thing I said, I wish I could just go to Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn any given weekend I want, or any weeknight I want again.
dude, no,
Like that would be
I hear
amazing,
you.
because that place, I have a lot of nostalgia for that place because it's the first place I ever bike packed in New
Yeah.
York City, and
Yeah,
then
sometimes
also
like mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah,
No,
that would be it. And then Pacific Northwest, probably somewhere up there in Seattle, I would say. And then I would say, like, if it had to be overseas, I would probably say like the Scottish Highlands, because
Scottish
I
Highlands.
follow some cyclists up there too
Okay.
on
Nice,
Instagram, and
man.
I talk with some cyclists up there, and it seems like that's like something.
That's awesome,
The
man.
footage, the
Yeah.
video footage I've seen, and the photos and everything is just like unreal. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I have to check that out, man. And I've never really looked into Scotland, but I can only imagine how beautiful like the land is there. So yeah, and it's funny you mentioned too, like Floyd Bennett Park. Sometimes like there's no place like home, right? Like I think about that sometimes too. Like I love just getting out to the Catskills. I used to love going out there, taking the rail from Harlem and just going to Poughkeepsie and riding the rail trails up to Woodstock, New York. And like those little things that are close to home
Mm.
are meaningful, and especially if it's like your first time, it's like there's nothing like that can really beat it. So I
Oh yeah,
resonate with you when you said that for sure.
yeah. Especially when there's certain campgrounds that I remember camping as a kid. I believe it was my uncles that first took me and my cousins camping. And when you get into those like kind of camping trips, even where you're revisiting places that you've been to for many years of your life.
Hmm.
So I find that like with bike packing, that's happened to me where, it had been, say, a year that I hadn't been at this one campsite in Texas. But when I went back and revisited Texas and I got out there solo and say did that 30-mile, beautiful dirt road gravel ride out there, and you get to that campsite and it's a year later and you realize like how much, you just start reflecting automatically. And you're like, the last time I was here, I was at this point and now I've grown. So I
Yeah.
think like it's important to revisit those places. And that's what's been happening to me every year going to Mid-South Gravel. in Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's what's been happening to me every year. Because I showed up there in 2022. It was the first March, that I went out there, and I didn't know what to expect, and I was blown away, and I had a blast. And I
Nice.
was riding pretty slow, actually. I was riding pretty slow. Every
That's all.
year I've gone and attended, I've done a better 100 miles. Like I've done a faster 100 miles every year, and I think this year 2025 is going to be my fastest 100 miles. I could
Nice.
tell already. And I've always had a pretty stylish outfit on, that you mentioned earlier. And I thank a lot of people for recognizing that about me, because the way I dress on a bike, and I try to dress in what's comfortable, and I also try to dress in what makes a statement.
Hmm.
So I get more excited about what wardrobe I wear on my bicycle than I get excited just to wear something to the cafe or
For
something.
sure.
Like if I'm walking, I almost don't even really care what I'm wearing. It's like when I'm going on a bike ride. Like if I'm going on an OCA ride with the crew uptown from the Bronx, I'm like, this is special. I'm gonna need to bring out something, I'm gonna need to have my
Yeah.
Air Force Ones that are gonna be fresh, crispy, and white, and then I'm gonna have to get those muddy, throughout the day.
I love that,
And we
man.
were like, and everybody, me and the crew that I'm riding with, shout out my friends in the Bronx, and there's a whole bunch of them now to mention, but so I won't shout out everyone's name, but I would say like that type of thing becomes like a conversation piece, and it becomes super funny within like the crew of people I'm riding with, because they're like, no way are those things gonna stay clean, and it's like, wow, we're already 3/4 of the ride, and I haven't got one splatter on these at all. I still got these fresh white sneakers on. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden we come towards the end, and a foot goes off the bike and in the mud. All of a sudden I finally get some mud on the shoes, you know, and then it's
I
like,
had to make a sneaker cleaning kit.
yeah, and it's like not really. I began to like appreciate the dirt too. I
Hmm.
began to like
Hmm.
appreciate the story behind like the mud splatter on the back of the denim jacket that I'm
Yeah.
wearing. Sometimes you come out with a bunch of mud splatters. Other times I look at myself and people are like, they can't even believe I was just riding in the dirt and riding in the
Mm.
mud because of how clean I am. And it's not like from fenders on the bike or anything else. It's just like, that's just how it is sometimes.
For
You
sure,
know?
man. I love
It's
that,
not like
man.
I'm
I love that.
specializing in not getting dirty. I actually like getting dirty. And,
Yeah, well, you definitely make it cross functional, man. Where like some people have to take off their jerseys and like switch out their bibs for like a comfortable outfit to sit down and go outside. But like you can hop from the bike to the cafe and go do some errands around New York or wherever you are easily, because that's just like your style, So that's really cool. Not many
that's
people do
probably,
that
yeah,
at
that's
all.
probably from the commuting too. That's probably more from the bike commuting stuff
Hmm.
too early on, where it's like, you roll your pants up. You roll your
Yep.
pants up and
Yep.
basically like, so they don't get in the chain and everything. I
For
usually wear
sure.
baggier clothes, like loose fitting clothes. I like hiking boots. I like construction boot, because work
Hmm.
boots, construction boots. Um, I love work wear. And then you're always going to see that. You're going to see that on a bicycle in New York City more than anything. It's just a blend of a whole bunch of different,
Yep.
different fashion from the
Yeah.
from the commuters and also the bike messengers. Bike messengers style has always been inspiring to me. The more
Nice.
I pick up on it at the social rides and everything in New York City, like the social cycling, NYC, the more I pick up on just the different styles you see out there and the different types of cyclists you see out there and the different
Yep.
types of bicycles. I mean, you got everything from folding bikes to gravel bikes to
Yeah.
fast road bikes, just track bikes, single speed with some brakes, there's everything that's out there. And it's just like, I like being known as the bike packer because that
Yeah.
way, when people see me with a frame bag and they see me with, you know, they see me with a handlebar bag, they know right away. They're like, you do some bike packing. You do some adventure stuff. That's what you do. And I say, yeah. And they'll ask me like, what bag is that? And, or where do you camp? Because I want to go. And then now a lot of those conversations are coming up in New York City. So I've been doing, as much as I can to get myself prepared for leading a couple group trips,
Nice.
this summer, and just being more connected to the community out there. And what can I do to really help newer up and comers, become acquainted and get comfortable, with outdoor gear on the bicycle, and how to pack the bike, and what to know safety wise and everything else. And I think I just I want to share the gift with other people
For
because, like I
sure.
said, I think that this is way more fun than going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, like going on a bike packing trip is way more fun than committing to like the regular gym routine. You know, it's like you go on an adventure for your weekend, even if it's just a single night overnight, you go on an adventure, even for that one night, you know, you leave Saturday morning, go on a Saturday, you know, bike camp, you know, you say you bike 50, 60 miles to the campsite on a Saturday, camp at night. And then in the morning, pretty much, you know, bike yourself home and get in on a Sunday evening. And then you just had like an experience that's like, it's not only like scenic and beautiful because you're out in nature, but you had the exercise factor in that too, where you're
Yeah,
coming back into work Monday morning, you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you don't even realize that you got a full body workout. Like you're toned up
totally.
all of a sudden in the shoulders most times. You're working your upper body as well as the lower, as well as your legs. It's like, it's just overall, like, it's just like a really good experience. Healthy for the, I would say, the mind, body, and soul. Like all
Yeah,
three
yeah.
elements is healthy for everything.
Yeah,
You know?
that's a great way to sum that up. Chad, you know, I feel like you spoke on fear a little bit earlier, but you know, I wanted to know if like maybe if you're if even for someone new, like who maybe who's sought out like who's sorting out like going out on a trip of their own, is there anything you can offer them or like something who wants to set sights on a new adventure in terms of fear, like how to overcome that fear of adventure or getting out there, or maybe like a story that you can share of how you or overcame fear.
I think it's important early on. I would say that it's good to have if you're a first timer does bike packing, be in a group, be with at least another, you know, be with at least one other person that's a little more experienced, or at least in a group of people that have some experience. So they've either done that route before and they've camped at that site before, and you probably want to do some stuff that's a little more an actual campsite where you're registered. They know you're coming. You've reserved the campsite. You know, like there's a lot of safer ways, you know, to do things where you know you have running potable water that's drinkable. You know, you don't want to set yourself up for your first trip to be something where you're going to have to filter water if you're not used to filtering water. You know,
Yeah,
you don't want to. You
totally.
might even want to set yourself up where, you know, if you had a rough day on the bike and stuff, you might feel more comfortable knowing that there's an actual bathroom and shower that's waiting for you at the campsite, you know, and firewood that's waiting for you at the campsite and things like that. So early on, it helped me to do that. It helped me to, even if I was going to bike somewhere solo, to know that I was, say, meeting my cousins up in the Catskills and they were showing up by car. And I told them, I don't take cars to the campsite.
Yeah,
I'm bike camping. You know what I mean? I'm bike packing.
yeah,
I'm gonna take the train and I'm gonna do 50 miles to come meet you. And they would really say, we'll come pick you up. No, you're missing the point. I got to get the exercise. I got to get the experience. I'm going to take some video. I'm going to take some photos. I want to document it. I want to, I'm looking for the experience, you know? And then sometimes it would even get to be like close to dark. And then they're texting me, we're going to come pick you up. The last 10 miles is all uphill. You don't want to do that in the dark. And I'm like, don't pick me up. You know what I mean? I'm like, please don't pick me up. Just leave me alone. And so early on, like I would do stuff like that. It's like, okay, 50 miles. I know I'm going to be in the dark a little bit in the mountains up there, but at least I know I'm going to a place where there's food, there's water. I can take a shower. I know I'm meeting some family up there, you know? So even if I was solo, I still knew that I was going. I wasn't just going to be solo in the woods all night in
yeah.
the Catskills. I was going to a place where I knew there was going to be people that know me and they're expecting me to arrive. So I
Mhm.
think that's something that like will help a lot early on, just for safety reasons. You know, I
Okay,
think for safety and comfort level, I think it's good to start that way. I would
nice.
also recommend. I mentioned Bikepacking Roots. I'm the New York City steward for Bikepacking Roots, and Bikepacking Roots is a nonprofit, or the only nonprofit organization strictly dedicated to bikepacking. And you know, they have a good. They're stewards all over the USA, and then they're even going to be making some moves up in Canada, I believe, soon. So I'm like really excited and grateful to be a part of their team, and they're going to be hosting a Northeast Summit, Northeast Bikepacking Summit, and that's going to be this summer. It's going to be mid to late June. Wait, what did I say? Mid to late July, possibly early August. That's going to be in New York State. So it's going to be accessible from New York City. It's going to be accessible from Connecticut, and I'm going to be putting up like a lot of you know, promotion for that.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm going to be, and I might even be hosting a ride. I've been in touch with some groups of people who want to go bike packing for the first time from New York City. So we might be arranging a ride up there too, from New York City up to the summit, the bike packing route summit. So stay tuned for that.
I
You
love it.
know,
I
that's so
love
I'm
it.
pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about this year.
Yeah, that
Like
sounds like something that the
I can
concrete
sit
jungle
here and talk
needs.
to you for probably like the next hour about how excited I am about what rides I'm doing this year, and then just what I'm going to be wearing in general.
Nice.
Because like I just get so excited about about some of these photo opportunities and content opportunities, and just we were talking about making videos earlier,
Hmm.
and that's one of my goals for this year is to get more into using my GoPro camera and
Nice.
get more into iMovie and making video content, that's just outside of just Instagram, and
Yeah.
I'm big on video reels. I love making creative video reels. Some people know
I
me for
see
that,
it. I love it too,
but I
man.
need
It's
to I need to get it further than that.
yeah.
I feel like I
Yeah.
should be making short films by now myself. You know, I feel like I should be making fun short films where you see it and you're like, what was that? That wasn't a bike packing video. That wasn't
Yeah.
that wasn't that. Like what's I want people to say like, I think people already see it, and I'm grateful that they see it and they see my
Yeah.
creativity on a bicycle, and I have fun with it. And
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah. I see. I
that's
see that.
that's what I took from the community early on. What I learned from the community early on from bike packing. I noticed that people were having fun. Like people are taking amazing nature photos even with their iPhone. And then you get into the film photography realm, and there's people just taking amazing film photos on bike packing trips. I have a friend that's a birder, so this person knows everything about birds, and he's in New York. He's in New York State, and pretty much he's a bike packing birder. So he's
That's
documenting
amazing.
birds, doing bird photography from the bike. And when you're bike camping, is like you're in nature, and it's like a good way, easily access and document, what birds are there. So
Nice.
I think
Nice.
there's so much to it. I've just always gotten some positivity and people having fun and getting creative on bikes, and you could have fun with nature photography, but you can also have fun with like, hey, how creative are you going to get with that outfit combination? How
For
is it
sure.
functional and fashionable to you? Some people like to mix up and have wild colors on the bike where nothing matches, you know, which
Yeah.
is like a look I've become accustomed to. I'm used to seeing that on rides. Like you see people are just like mixing up everything. Denim right now seems to be super hot. There's a bag company. I'm not going to drop their name right now, but I already have on Instagram and everything else, but they just did a series of bike packing bags in denim, and people know I have my bags wrapped in some denim also, as far as just like some custom denim I've put on there because I like having like a fashion element to the bike packing bag. And it really reflects my style of what I'm wearing head to toe, but now it's like on the bike also. So it's like me and the bike have like this unified kind of look,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like the way I see it, people are going to like watch this and they might be like, wow, this person's definitely a little different. But I'm 43 years old. I got to say, it's been how many years now? If I started bike packing in 2016, that's been 9 years.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe, 9 years. And I got to say that bike packing for me is like, it's really changed my life for the better. It
Yeah.
has. I'm healthier now than I've been in a lot of years. And I know that other people are attracted to the positivity of the community and just as much as I am. So there's people who are decades deep in this culture, and I owe a lot to them. Some of the people in the culture of bike packing and adventure cycling who've done the most for me never really asked me, like they never really like asked me for much in return. You know
Yeah.
that people have
Yeah.
been like really people have been really good to me, and they've done a lot for me, and they don't you know they're not reminding me of that all the time.
I
You
love
know
that. I love
they
that.
want you they and that culture and the way that people have passed that on to me in that way, and just that kind of generosity, I should say, and that kind of willingness to help someone that's willing to learn and get into the sport. I would say that's what I want to pass on to other people also.
Yeah.
It's not just,
Yeah.
and it's not just the younger generation. There's going to be plenty of people like me in their late
Yeah.
30s that
Yeah.
get into bike packing in their late 30s. You
Hmm.
can be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and still bike pack. There's really no age limit to this. You know,
Yeah.
everyone has their own everyone has their own goals. You know, someone's goal might be to do that first, 50-mile bike packing trip, right? And
Hmm.
somebody else's goal might be to do, like my goal is to do 400 miles at the East Texas Showdown
Ooh,
this March. And I've never done the
man.
400. I've never done the full course. I've always attempted to do the full course and then somehow done the slowdown route, which is 280 miles. And then last year I came in at like maybe 340 miles in 3 days.
Yeah.
But I had a slow first day and I had like a last day that was pretty rough and missed a lot of food stops and stuff. And now I'm going back and this will be my fourth. I don't want to say fourth attempt because really I go out there and I attempt to have fun and I have fun every time I've gone there. So I've successfully gone there and connected with the community and gotten more of a sense of the community and had fun and laughed with people, whether it's been on the trail or the campsite. I fell in some water 2 years ago when I was there. I was pretty much swimming with my bike
Oh
in a
no.
flooded out road, and I live to talk about it and laugh about it.
Oh
But
no.
my goal is this time is not to get too, comical. I'm gonna try to get serious, and I'm looking to do 130, 150 miles a day is
For
what I'm looking
sure.
to do. Yeah,
Nice.
that's what I,
Nice,
that's what
man.
I need to do. So
That's
that's it.
awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're well seasoned, man. 9 years is a good time. Like, what's one thing that you would tell your younger self related to, like, bike packing, or even the outdoors? Like, what would it be?
Uh, let's see. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to. What would I tell myself? Hmm. I almost wish I would have gotten up and traveled like more right from the beginning to some other places, but that's just not the natural evolution for
Hmm.
everyone. You
Yeah.
know, I wasn't I wasn't coming from the cycling scene in New York City in a way where I was already really connected, and I became connected through bike packing and the bike packing community. I had started bike packing and didn't know that 718 Outdoors was hosting, like,
Okay.
and had a packed schedule already every year of trips. So I like stumbled upon that information. I didn't know about Ron's bikes
Yeah.
up in Connecticut. I didn't know about Ultra Romance until I stumbled upon that information organically. And I didn't know about that stuff, and it felt like, for me, I feel like it happened at like the right time. Where now
Yeah.
that culture and the knowledge of it is growing, so it's like it's gonna now all of a sudden it's gonna be easier for people just to see it and digest it.
Hmm.
And I think for me it was like it happened slow, but I guess that's kind of the way that it happened. Because I was gonna say it would have been awesome if I could have just taken a trip to Texas and right away and biked some Texas dirt roads and bike packed out there. Because bike camping is so different in different parts of the country.
Hmm.
You
It
know,
totally is. It
the
totally
weather's
is.
different. The
Hmm.
like the weather's different, and you're very susceptible to the elements, and that's another point of conversation about bike packing, which is the fact that you're out there in nature and you feel very small most times because you're
Yeah.
just susceptible to whatever's coming through. You can't turn the rain on and off. You
For
can't turn the
sure.
snow on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because you plan the trip for that weekend of July doesn't mean it's not going to be a heat wave and it's not going to be a monsoon coming through or a
Totally.
thunderstorm, which happened to me this past year. I had a Swift camp out planned. Swift Industries does host the Swift Camp Out, which is a
Hmm.
global call to go bike camping pretty much every year on the summer solstice. And I've been participating in that since 2018. And you participate just by going bike packing wherever you are. And there's a huge community of people who are, interacting online about this stuff. So like you're going to see a Swift camp out going on in Tokyo, Japan, and you're going to see people in South America, and you're going to see people in you name what European country and you will see it out there having their Swift camp out, whether it be
Yeah.
a 1 night trip or whether it be like a whole week trip that they're out there. And, it's just, yeah, now I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but
No, man, that's all true though, man. I think everyone enters bikepacking or discovers it. We all come from different facets of life, so like, we may enter it in a different environment that could be different from someone else's, and have a completely different experience, but it's a shared experience too, because it's bikepacking, So yeah, I appreciate you sharing your journey and how you,
yeah,
got into it and all that. So I wanted
yeah,
to touch on fashion a little bit, man. I mentioned earlier, like, I feel like your style is a lot different from many others I've seen. I coined you earlier too, like the purveyor of street style fashion, and you pair it really well with bikepacking. And it's true, and so I'm curious, like, tell me about Concrete Revolt. I know that's your brand. How did you get that started, and what's that all about? Where you plan on taking it and everything?
yeah. Concrete Revolt started it started as a collaborative project. So it wasn't a brand. It was just a simple collaborative project. In 2020, I connected via Instagram with Revolta Art, who's in Tucson, Arizona. I had reached out organically. We didn't know each other. I reached out and said, I really like your art. I'd love to do a collab project and have, either a sticker or a patch, or, originally it was maybe even just supposed to be a sticker. And I came up with the name, and it was both of our Instagram handles. It was Revolta Art meets Concrete Trails, pretty much Concrete Revolt. And it really just became a pretty bold statement where people are like, Concrete Revolt, like, that's interesting. So the project itself, was about reconnecting with nature, and that's a lot of what has evolved with the brand. And right from the start, we had some patches made, some woven patches made, which is, woven patches are something you're going to see throughout, all of that's an accessory that you see on bikepacking bags, to denim jackets, to just about anything within the culture. That definitely is something that's within just the bikepacking culture in general, is the patch, woven patches. And the woven patch, and then we had a run of bandanas, and a portion of proceeds we actually gave a donation to Bikepacking Roots.
Nice.
So we gave a portion of proceeds to Bikepacking Roots, and I actually helped them reach their goal for the year, and that was in the year of 2021. And I like the name so much that I said I really want to continue this, and I want to continue to make some upcycled clothing, or some more bandanas, accessories. There's been another run of patches, and I built the website, and it explains just on the homepage of the website, like the original story. It just explains the story there, and then you'll see different products that I've upcycled with some vintage. So you see like some riding vests that I've done. There's a vintage fleece, a reverse weave fleece that's on there, which is a really unique style, which is fun to bike in. And when I started dyeing some product, I even got into dyeing some products custom. And I think that me doing sewing myself, which is new for me, even sewing a patch on a garment, was new for me. I pretty much said to myself, I worked in street fashion for so long, and people are doing embroideries on hats all day long. That's just a part of okay, you got an embroidered hat, you got a screen printed hoodie, you got a screen printed t-shirt, and all this stuff. And I was like, I've never even used a sewing machine, and I got into using, a home sewing machine, and now I'm able to put patches on my own hats, and I'm able to put patches on a garment, and give it that Concrete Revolt, upcycled look. And, I have one of my hats right here, which is, we call that the peekaboo hat, because it's basically sewn onto, this is sourced from a street vendor right here too. This is just a made in USA hat.
I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah, sourced from a street vendor. It's support local, support community. Mm-hmm. I could have bought 50 blanks from just some supplier online, but instead it was the street vendor, and it's the hat style that I know, that I've washed a bunch of times, that I like the best. And a lot of times, okay, if I only had $60, you know what I mean? Then I could only get this many, or I could only get the colors that they had on the table.
For sure.
So that makes it a lot more organic of a story. And then when I sew the patch on myself, and then I began to put some fabric behind the patch, and when that wears away, I came up with the term "made to fray." So the more you wash and wear something, it frays
Yeah.
away. And there's a similarity between that fashion wise and the way that articles of clothing wear. And it's good to actually wear things out and wear them in and have a story behind them. There's a relation to that to bicycles also, and especially in bike packing when you're going to be out there on some pretty rugged terrain. And there's going to be
Yeah.
mud, there's going to be dirt. You get scratches on the bike, you get some worn in bike bags, just a lot of different, I think that there's a lot of beauty in things that are worn and reused and repurposed. Clothing that's going to have, pants that are going to have a patch on it because you wore a hole in it on your bicycle, as opposed to just buying a brand new pair of pants. So that whole, that's what I'm continuing to do is upcycled fashion. And so far, it's really the fashion has just been done by myself. So if you see a patch on something, it's been sewn on there by me. And if you see, let's say a cropped jacket that I've done, I sourced the vintage jackets and I pretty much cropped it myself, hand cut it and sewed it myself. And I've done some different, added some different fabrics. Just definitely take a look at the website.
Yeah,
And you'll
for
get
sure.
into it. And I
For
have a
sure.
lot of fun on there. I have fun on there even writing the product descriptions because I just love products so much and I love to talk about fashion items and clothing. I love clothing so much. And I could just write so much. So sometimes I just give you most of the time I just give you the real story behind the item. I'll tell you where I sourced it from, or I'll tell you what I did with it, and I'll tell you what was fun about it. And,
Yeah.
so I just want to say
that,
thank you to the community of people that have supported also and bought products online or have bought products from me at some of the different markets where I've vended, which has been, the Bikepacking Roots Summit where I vended, and Mid-South Gravel where I vended last year, and I will have a booth this year too for Concrete Trails, and Bikepacking Roots are sharing a booth. I think there's a lot of excitement behind that right now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I love it, man. I love your processes and how you sew and everything you share the journey, so I appreciate that. Mad respect,
Now, I appreciate you just for recognizing it and noticing it. I appreciate
I
that a
love
lot.
fashion too, man. I'm from New York City too, man. So I know I appreciate fashion and design and all that. So I feel like it's a big part of my life in terms of like biking and all that too. So
Yeah,
for sure. Todd,
absolutely.
like what do you love most about bikepacking? Like what's one thing that you'd say is your favorite?
I think that's an easier question. I love the freedom about it.
Mm,
And I mentioned that earlier. When you have a loaded bike and
mm-hmm.
you have everything you need to live on that bike. You have food, clothing, and shelter on that bike. Whether it be for a week trip, whether it be for a one night trip, and you just feel that freedom of knowing that, you're prepared for the elements. You have the right clothing packed with you, you have your tent with you, or you have a bivy, or you have a hammock, or, you have your shelter on the bike with you pretty much. And then you have, food. So you have your food kit. So you're going to have your stove, and everybody has different methods to that stuff. Pretty much, I use a little isobutane stove. And I like actually having, just sometimes I only have actually one cup, and then I just have my thermos. So I pretty much would heat up water and make coffee. I like dehydrated food. So I actually like dehydrated food. I think they're super simple for someone that's not really the best camp chef. Some people are out there with the skillet, the cast iron skillet and stuff like that. That's not me. I've had a lot of meals like that, but they were prepared by someone else.
Yeah.
I like going to the local store and picking up a couple different meals from some of these brands that make them, and because dehydrated food is as simple as boiling water on your stove.
Yes.
Yeah, adding water to the bag, zipping the bag shut. You let it sit there 10, 15 minutes. I like to shake it up a bit, mix it around, and then you have a meal ready to go. And I like to also buy a baguette. So you have some bread, you just dip that right into the bag, and that just adds something. You add a little extra water to your meal, and that way you make like a soup out of it, and then you've got the baguette bread, and it just comes out perfect. And that's just like one of my personal little camp meal. That's like one of my personal camp meal hacks. That's like a lot of fun. But yeah, I would say that's what I like. I like the freedom of it. I like being unplugged. I like being able to take a look up at the, up at the trees and see leaves, and I kind of just really just appreciate being surrounded by nature.
Yeah.
And like I said before, you get very humbled by nature. You don't have as much control.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to turn the temperature dial on the thermostat or anything else. And I believe it. It's humbled me, and it's been good for me physically, like I mentioned, exercise wise. But it's been really good for me mentally, and it's been really good for spiritual health too. Like I said, it's really connected me spiritually again and centered me a lot, and just has done a lot for me in my life.
Yeah.
So that's as simple as that. I can't stress that
man.
enough.
I love that.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then right now you're helping me get that word out. So I thank you for that, and I appreciate that.
Oh, for sure, man. I think it's relatable too, for myself, and listen to you, share that. I think those are a lot of the things that I care about.
And it's been too many years, and we need to go on a trip together. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
100%.
We need to go on a trip together. I'm thinking you're down in Florida
brother.
right now. I'm in North Carolina.
And we will. Get me out of here. We got to go somewhere, bro.
Yeah.
And we will, man. We'll definitely be talking about that, man. And for sure, I'd love to do that, brother. Any tips you can offer some riders who might be new to bike packing that, for first timers?
I think I said this earlier. I said that less is more. Mm-hmm. And when you first start out, you want to carry a whole bunch of stuff with you on the bike. And then you realize that like you don't really need as much as you think usually. It's good to be prepared. It's good to have extra stuff, but that's why it's also good to have and bike at first with people, bike pack with people with you, that might be a little more experienced and things like that.
Sure.
If everybody else has a stove or something like that, it's like you might not necessarily need to carry one. You might don't want to put 30, 40 pounds, on your bike or something like that first time out. You want to try to go as light as possible, keep it as simple as possible, know where everything is on the bike, know that it's solid and not going to fall off the bike. Even though I make that mistake sometimes still too, where I'm like dropping something out of a bag that goes loose or something like that, and we all do. But yeah, I would say less is more.
Yeah.
So,
nice, man. Well said for sure.
Yeah.
Todd, what do you want to be remembered by? In terms of anything. I mean, that's a loaded question, I'd say, but whether you want however you want to relate it to, whether it's bike packing or anything in your personal life, goals. Like, what do you want to be remembered by?
I said I'm going to be 44 years old next week, and I would say that at this point in my life, I definitely want to be remembered as someone that was creative on a bicycle and had fun on a bicycle, but also was just creative and had fun with any aspect of my life. I mean, whether it was with my profession at work or whether it's with my family in a personal life, I want people to know that I'm here to have fun, and I believe that like laughter is key, to a lot of just I don't know if I should say, laughter and love, I would say, is key to just health in general. I believe I want to be known as someone that was creative, and I want to be known as someone that was always having fun and always having a good time. And it just, the more that, the older I've gotten, I've realized that, life is going to be life, and everything is about how we deal with things, and do you have that healthy, do you have that healthy outlet, to deal and process, what's going on in the world. And for cyclists, it's, for a lot of cyclists, it's that is being on the bike. So I relate to that. It's like, that's what it is being on the bike. Pretty much makes me, is my outlet. Makes me,
nice.
Makes me the best person I could be. So that's what it is. Yeah.
I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring the question there.
For sure. What's where can people find you in terms of like whether it's social or?
People can find me on Instagram. I have too many Instagram accounts, but there's a reason for that. It's Concrete Trails is me as a cyclist. So just at Concrete Trails is my handle. And then for the brand is Concrete_Revolt. So on Instagram, we got Concrete Revolt, and that's a little more product driven, that account, and that'll take you right to the website. And then my personal handle is just Todd Nisbet, and you'll see a lot of my personal life that goes back. I don't delete a lot of posts, you know. I have a lot of friends at this point in life and family in a lot of different aspects, you know, in the world and in different cultures and everything else. So I would say that's a good way to find me. ConcreteRevolt.com. Definitely go shop the website and check that out. And I appreciate the support of everyone that already has shown some love and supported. And you don't just have to buy something to show support. You could easily like an item and say, check out what Concrete Trails just posted with Concrete Revolt. You know what I mean? Like, check this item out, you know, and that stuff spreads, you know. I appreciate the people that just repost content on their stories for me. You know, I have, you know, the website, concreterevolt.com and concretetrails.com. There's going to be a lot more stuff happening with that this year too. So stay tuned. Yeah.
All right. That's what's up, man. Todd, listen, brother, immense gratitude. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Everything, man. And just sharing.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you reaching out to me, and we got to get that trip in. I think it's going to happen this year. I can feel it.
For sure. I believe it is too, man. For sure. Definitely.
All right.
Dude, it was amazing talking to you, man.
Dwayne, thank you so much.
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you to anybody that's tuning in and watching too. I think me and Dwayne might need to come back. We got a good energy going on camera here.
Absolutely.
We might need to come back. This could, I can see this going somewhere because I feel pretty comfortable. I feel pretty comfortable on camera, and we got to revisit a couple stories for 2020 also.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
We got big things on the pike, man. So for sure.
Exactly.
Right on, brother.
Yeah. Thank you again.
All right, my man.